All right, what's up? Welcome everybody to the stream. We hope that you're having a great Wednesday night. I am joined by Grace and Tyreek. So Grace, go ahead and introduce yourself. Give well, I just said your name, but you can say your name again. Grade, age, fun fact, whatever you want to do.
I'm Grace. I'm 15. I'm in 10th grade at Northern. And
You talked about pickles last time, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, I did. I don't know.
You talked about pickles, your goat, because you live on a farm.
Yeah.
And we could take this opportunity to tell the story about the crazy emu that we encountered at your house.
Gosh.
But we probably don't have time for that.
And
So,
there's an emu that lives at my house that is very mean.
and it about jumped over the fence and attacked all of our students. And it was great. It was a fun time. Okay, so Northern.
Yeah.
And you live on a farm. You have a goat named Pickles and a dangerous emu.
Mm-hmm.
That about covers it.
Pretty much.
And you lead a middle school small group on Mondays.
Yeah.
I hear great things. It's going well. Tyreek, go for it.
Well, as you can see, my name is Tyreek. I'm a junior, and I'm 16. One fun fact about me, I guess, is I'm from New York.
New York in the house. I don't think we've ever had anybody on here from New York before.
I'm from Greensboro.
And I'm from Alabama, so definitely not New York. Madison, that was funny. Thanks, Madison. We should be on Comedy Central, right now. No, probably not. Okay, so as you all know, hopefully by the text and the title of this message, Declan says, "Hi, Dad." That is so sad, actually, that I'm not home right now. Oh, it's funny. Okay, so from the text and from the stream title, hopefully you guys know that we are talking about pursuing emotional health and life-giving relationships. So we were talking a little bit before the stream started, and we actually kind of landed on the idea that the reason that they wanted to talk about emotional health and life-giving relationships is because of all the change that we've been going through. And so really it's like, how does change affect our emotional health, and how do life-giving relationships help us through it? And how do we pursue all of that in the midst of change? So we'll have that conversation tonight. It's going to be great. But one thing that I want to do first is I want to remind everyone, I know that a lot of families may be watching on a TV or something, but we want you guys to engage in the chat and to ask your questions. So what you can do right now if you're watching on a TV is you can pull up the link on your phone or whatever. You can just go to the Daystar Youth YouTube channel and you can engage in the chat on your phone as you're watching on the TV. So whatever you have to do to engage in the chat, do that. Because we want to interact with you guys and answer your questions and provide this as an opportunity for us to relate and to just relate on questions and comments, concerns, whatever. Michaela said the chat is my fave. Yeah, right. That's great. Great example right there. So let's see. How do we start this off? Let's start off with first, tell me a little bit about your year, Grace. So you talked a little bit a few minutes ago about the emotional health and the life-giving relationship combination, that's present in your life, really has come to a head because of all the change that you've gone through over the past year. So talk to me a little bit about that first.
This time last year was kind of a lower point for me, and I was kind of just, I guess, mentally just struggling with a lot of different things and just experiencing things that I'd never really experienced before. And I didn't really have the people to turn to give me, I guess, the godly perspective and really what I needed to hear and what I needed in that time. And then when I felt like I was starting to get into a better place and doing better, quarantine hit and kind of reset all of it. And then I ended up meeting all the right people at the right time. Between 252 and working with a group at my school, I just became super close with all these amazing people that have really been able to help me get into the Word and reading my Bible more, which is something I've always struggled with. and just all of it, and having someone to turn to and people that genuinely care. And I guess I never really understood what life-giving relationships meant until this summer and until quarantine.
Yeah, that's good. So when you say, because that's kind of like a churchy word in a way, where it's life-giving relationships. What does that mean to you exactly? You're getting a shout out from Sarah Thomas. Hey Sarah, good to see you. Well, kind of, but what's up? So life-giving relationships, like how do you define that? Like what does that mean for you?
People that make your walk with God easier and not harder, and who, even if it's not always like what you want to hear, they want what's best for you, and they're pushing you closer to God, and they genuinely care about you, which I feel like is so hard to find.
That's a good point, because a lot of people probably when we say life-giving relationships, they're gonna think like, oh, that's just people who encourage me all the time, and it's like, well, in a way, yes, but encouraging you doesn't always mean telling you that what you're doing is right. And sometimes it's challenging you in an encouraging way, saying like, hey, I see more for you, and what you're doing right now, you're not living up to it. Like helping you like get better. So that, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's great. So what about you, Tyreek? Like over the past year or however long, like what's change been like? And
Well, I guess last year basically was when I started, when I was on my downfall, I would say, because that's when I like started getting suspended, and Christmas was around the corner, but it was like I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just like in a bad place, and then when I feel like I was getting better, quarantine hit. So it was just like when I felt like I was at a safe spot in myself, it was just like quarantine just like took it away and was just like, well, oops, sorry, not sorry. And then like 252 happened, and I wasn't really thinking about going into 252, but it was like, it wasn't really a last minute thing, but it was like, actually, I'm like, I want to see it out and see how it works. And then it just like blew my mind how much fun I was having and stuff. And even though we were like it was godly, like, and how much I've grown closer to God just from doing 252 this year. So yeah. And then with me, my thing with a life-giving relationship is basically what Grace said, really, was somebody who's gonna help you walk with God and accept you for who you are, and is gonna always basically be there for you no matter when you're feeling down or feeling happy.
Yeah, it's good. I think all those are great. As we're talking about like just defining life-giving relationships and what that looks like through change, like it sounds like what you guys are saying is, it sounds like, Lucy, we threw out a question, how could someone break out of their comfort zone of being alone and search for more life-giving relationships? That is so good. So y'all think about that real quick. I'll finish what I was saying, and then we can answer that question. That's really good. It sounds like what you guys are saying is the thing that pushed you to emotional health in the midst of change was your life-giving relationships. Like that's the thing. Like, so it just doesn't surprise me, because like when Jesus came, he didn't do anything alone. Like when his ministry started and he got 12 guys around him, like every big thing that happened in the Bible, it's like they were there with him and he did it through them, right? So it's like there's just so much that goes into relationships, and as Jesus even prayed before he left this earth, he was praying that God would make us one with each other, right? I mean, that's huge unity. So yeah, it's awesome. All right, so how can someone break out of their comfort zone of being alone and search for more life-giving relationships? So I'll ask this question first before we get there. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm normally an extrovert, but it depends on like the setting and who I'm around, I guess. Like at school, I feel like I am very introverted, and like I don't really talk to you unless you talk to me first. But it kind of just depends.
Okay, makes sense. I think I know the answer to yours.
I'm an extrovert.
You're all extrovert.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so then how can you guys, in the midst of your comfort zone, if your comfort zone is being alone, so maybe it's true for you, Tyreek, too, is that in certain situations you do like being alone more than being around whatever is going on, right? So how do you break out of that and search? And I like the word search. Like search is good because it's almost like you recognize you need it and that you don't have it. And it's like, I need to move, right? So it's like the search is very important there. How do you begin searching for life-giving relationships in the midst of that? So we'll start with you.
I remember like kind of when quarantine hit, like I realized I had like one friend that I was still talking to, like consistently. And I guess I was kind of feeling very alone, and I realized I did not have life-giving relationships, and I did not have Christian friends. And I just remember like praying and asking God to bring those people into my life, and helping me to, I guess break out of my comfort zone and be willing to like put myself out there and like find those relationships. And it was almost like immediate. Soon after that, like 252 started, and I started working with a group of people from my school to start this club, a Christian leadership club. And it's just like God showed me, and he was like, here's your people. And I guess it's not always that simple, and it's not always that immediate, but I guess I could see God in everything I did. And it's still like I'm still in the process of opening up to people is so hard for me.
Yeah.
I don't like being like one more thing that you have to worry about.
Sure.
And I guess that's more where I had to break out of my comfort zone, and something I'm still working on is just being able to talk to people. And now that I have those people in my life, it makes it easier to be able to open up. And I've started doing better with that, but I feel like that for me is just like trusting and knowing that God placed these people into my life, and
That's
I
good.
can trust them, and that it's gonna take like, I guess, coming out of my comfort zone and opening up to them to allow those relationships to be life-giving.
So it's almost like just one step at a time. Like, because from your story, it sounds like at the beginning you knew it wasn't going to be easy, and you knew you didn't want to do it, but it was like, and I love what you said, like you saw God in it, because it's like, especially with that idea of just like my comfort zone is when I'm alone. It's like the idea of understanding that that's where my comfort zone is and stepping out, that is a step of faith. It's like, and not to dance around it and to say like, oh, it should be easy, you should just go do it. It's like, that's not it at all. Like, it's a step of faith. It can be very difficult for some people to step out and pursue and search, like Lucy said so well, is that to search for life-giving relationships. So it's a step of faith, but also understanding that in the midst of that step of faith, like God's going to meet you there. And even if it's not as immediate as your experience was with 252 and stuff, stepping out and pursuing life-giving relationships, somehow, some way, God's going to meet you in that and honor that step of faith, and just begin to lead you. And even what you're saying, like it's a process. Like you said, you're still learning how to open up and to share and be authentic and like all these things, and letting people in more and more areas of your life. I mean, that's something that even I'm still working on. Like every single day, it's just something that I have to make a conscious decision to do that. So that's really good. So what do you think?
Well, I'm gonna bite off of what Grace said. It was like, from my experience, it was basically when I moved down here, I had to start all over. So it was like I wasn't in my comfort zone, and me being from New York, I guess it was easy for me to make friends per se. But it's like a lot of people that I used to mess with and be cool with, I don't even talk to now, based off of I just think of, are they beneficial to me, and am I going to be able to, if I needed anything, no matter what it was, will I be able to ask them, and no matter what, they would make out time for me, or make out time for me to get what I need and stuff, and will I do the same for them? And a lot of that is basically how I've been thinking now, especially during quarantine, to the point where it's like a lot of people, they might text me now and then, and I'll be like, oh, it was good hearing from you, but other than being like life-giving friends, it's not, it's like, my life-giving friends are basically the people from 252 and most of the people that are still connecting with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I saw that Annalise said being around people can sometimes be really draining, but I've noticed for me, if it's draining, I'm not with the right group of people because it shouldn't be so hard around them. So she brings up a good point where at some points, like even, Tyrone, like, are they helping or hurting me? It can be very draining to be around the wrong group of people. Like, I mean, what you're saying is what she said. It's like you were around the group of people that maybe they weren't life-giving, maybe they were life-draining. Where it's like maybe you had a little bit in the tank and you're engaging in this relationship hoping for a mutual encouragement or something, but it's just like they're tearing you down, or they're just maybe not tearing you down, but it's just life draining. You're always there's like a student actually, like, now that I'm thinking about this, a student actually told me a few weeks ago that he loves being around the group of 252 and just our youth ministry because it's much different than what he experiences at school. Because at school, it's like it's just normal to just walk down the hall and just to like just trash somebody, just like throw hits at somebody, and it's like it's just as natural as breathing almost. Just because that's the cultural thing. It's funny, it's like to them it's funny. But it's life draining because it's like every shot that somebody takes, it's offensive, it's whatever. But at 252, like he even said, he's like, I've never seen any of them fight. Like, it's like we disagree, but we've never had such a like bad disagreement where we couldn't handle it right. We weren't able to still love each other first and disagree second, kind of, that whole thing. So Tyrone said leeches, right? It's funny because that word came to mind, but I was like, I'm probably not gonna say that. But Tyrone said it, so oh, it's funny. So are they helping me or hurting me? Yeah, that's really good. So we talked a little bit about the changes that you guys have experienced over the past year. And so you both talked about how you were in a low, you started getting a little bit better, and then COVID hit and like, boom, like, okay, now it's right back to square one almost. It's funny because I was thinking about a phrase earlier when you were telling that story of how like COVID hit and it just got hard again. And it's funny because people, as we're talking about change, people don't necessarily hate change. They just hate when they're forced to change. It's like, I like change. Like, I love change when I get to choose it, right? It's like everybody loves the new car and the new iPhone and the whatever, but it's like when you're forced to change, then it's like that decision was taken away from me and now I can't emotionally handle it well. And as we're talking about this, Pastor Chris Hodges is Pastor Allen's pastor in Birmingham. And he gave a message recently on emotional capacity, which is very similar to what we're talking about. And he said, emotional capacity is the ability to handle adversity, criticism, change, and pressure in a positive way. And so as we talk about that, and we talked about what you guys have experienced over the past year, that's all past. So now we get to present, and we're literally in the middle of a presidential election. Like it's still happening right now, Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of change that's being forced on people. And that's personally why I think a lot of people have a very difficult time around election, is because there's a forced change that I didn't get to choose. I tried to choose it, but maybe I didn't, or maybe I did, right? So we talked a little bit last week about how to handle political tension and still love each other through that. But how does the political climate, the racial climate, all that kind of stuff, the change that's happening right now currently, how do you guys feel like you're handling it right now? You can be honest too. It's okay. Forced change just ain't it. Right, Malone, talk to him. He's got it.
Yeah, that's so true. Like I love change. Like I love something new and just getting to do something different. But when it's not what you want, it's just not the same, and it feels like, I don't know. Sorry, lost my train of thought. I feel like with everything going on, I saw something the other day, and it was kind of talking about more political, but it could go for like anything, and how it was like, I'm a Republican Christian or I'm a Democratic Christian. Like it's just caused such a divide, and you can't be friends with someone because they have different political views. And just because they don't think the same way you do, it creates such a divide. But that's not what Jesus wanted. That's
Right.
not, he didn't come down so that he came down so we could be one, not so that we could split. He wants us to be one under him, not one under my political party. Like, I'll find these life-giving relationships if you believe the same thing as me, or if you're voting for the same person as me. It's become just such there's such a divide
Right.
in everything in our world, and that's not what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
The other day I heard a pastor say, and they were saying, like, they said, I am not a member of the Republican Party, I'm not in the Democratic Party, I'm a member of God's kingdom. Like, that's the only thing I'm living for. I'm gonna vote for whoever I feel aligns with that the most. But even if somebody else doesn't believe that same thing, that shouldn't create such a divide between
Right.
us, because that's not what we're meant to do.
And even like hearing what you're saying is the statement that Lucy made earlier about how do I step out of my comfort zone of being alone to search for life-giving relationships. A lot of people right now probably need to be asking, how do I step out of my comfort zone of my political party to search for life-giving relationships?
Yeah.
Because like we talked about last week, the temptation there is to put your political view as your identity over Christ. And like if I'm talking to somebody and they're a Democrat or Republican or whatever, if I'm not careful, I can begin to see them as that rather than a son or daughter of Christ.
Yeah.
And that's where you get in trouble. So yeah, we are part of God's family. That's so true. So what are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking that basically, because there's a lot of people that, we have different beliefs and stuff, and it's like, even no matter what kind of belief that we have, for one thing that we are is you're going to always be my brother and sister in Christ. So no matter if you're Republican or Democrat, it's the simple fact that I'm not gonna feel some type of way that you're this, and I'm not gonna bash you because you're this, because that's your beliefs. So it was just like on different things, it's like we'll just agree to disagree.
Yeah, it's good. So what about in the future? So like, let's say come next week, we'll have maybe a new president or the same president or whatever, and we'll be stepping forward into a new year. And so there's change with the new year. There's a lot of change that we've experienced, that we are currently experiencing, and now we can talk about like maybe some things that are coming up, like how and really the biggest thing I think for me is when we talk about the future and we talk about change and emotional health and life-giving relationships for the future, the two things that come up are trust and fear. So I struggle with that a lot. So I struggle with control a lot, and I've been recently realizing that more than ever, being married and becoming a dad. It's like if I can't control a situation, I get very upset, right? And Declan is so funny because he does the same thing. He pushes like this little kid's broom around, and if he runs into something and he can't like push it through a wall, then he just throws it down and just starts screaming. And I'm like, man, you learned that from me, didn't you? It's just like I see so much of myself in that, obviously on a smaller scale, but I see so much of myself in that where when there's a situation that I feel like I need to control, when God never called me to control it, I begin to step out of God's will for my life. And it starts, causing me to act and behave in ways that I wouldn't normally behave. And so, that for me is a big thing, is that if I feel like I can't control a situation, then that's an issue for me. And really what that comes down to is trust. And so as I've been processing this election and next year and, personally as a family, and then where I feel like God's leading us as a youth ministry, there's a lot of things that are, that come up and that are ideas or whatever. Even this conference weekend that we're heading into with Oasis, there's a lot of things that I feel like I need to control that I will never be able to control. So what do you guys feel like with the change that's coming up in the future, If there is anything that you know about personally or just in general stepping into a new year, do you have fear? Do you feel like you're out of control? And do you think that's a bad thing or a good thing? Just what's your thoughts on that topic?
Well, I'll go first on
Okay.
this one. Well, based on my control, I feel like my control, it can be better per se, but I feel like I've matured on the person that I was last year to the little kid I was last year to like the young man I'm becoming this year, and stepping in forward to next year. I know I have to fix a lot of different things, like one, my attitude and stuff, and like how I react towards things.
Yeah.
And
Same.
me with trust, I feel like I've gotten better with me putting my trust into others instead of me putting my trust into myself and stuff. And I always used to have that mentality of, if nobody has my back, I'm gonna always have my back. And I had to like change that to, I know that I'm gonna always have my back, but I also know that if I don't have my back, I know there's going to be others that are going to hold me down no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. What about you, Grace?
I feel like everything you were saying about like control, I can very much be like that. And I guess I've started to get to the point where like college is becoming a real thing and it's getting
Yeah.
really close, like really fast. And with online school, like it's really hard to maintain like good grades, and I don't know like how I'm supposed to keep up with all of it and do good enough to get into whatever school. And I don't know like really what any of that looks like, and I have no control over how any of it goes. And I feel like I'm still in the process of learning, I guess, how to realize like I was never meant to control it, and as long as it's in my control, it's gonna fall apart,
Right.
and nothing is gonna come out of it. But when
Yeah.
it's in God's control, that's a lot better than doing anything
Yeah.
in my own power.
Caesar. Oh my gosh. Annalise said the same thing. College is scary. There's probably a lot of people that have fear around the idea of like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
So I think that's just like, that's so relatable on many levels. And, like we say every single week, we'll be ending here in a second, but like we say every single week, the goal of this conversation is to start a conversation that you can continue in the home. And so really the topic that I would love for parents to discuss with students is how is all the change that you've experienced over this past year, that you're currently experiencing, and whatever the change is that's coming forward or in the next year, whether it be college or whether it be just maybe a family move or a relationship move or something, whatever that looks like for you, how is change affecting your emotional health? And through that, like, how can you rely on life-giving relationships more than ever before to help you get through that? And so that is really just like the biggest thing to talk about, is what are the things that, especially with the change, is it causing fear in your life? Is the fear coming from a place of you feel like you can't control it, and I feel like I need to control this change, and just being okay with the idea that like we have to trust God and be okay with what His plan is, even though it may not exactly match what we think it should be. So that's the conversation for tonight. We hope that you guys pick that up. And we also hope for sure that we'll see you this weekend at the first Oasis conference, Oasis 2020. We are starting Friday night, 5:30 p.m. It's going to be great. They're going to be here. I'm going to be here. It's going to be awesome. There. I say here? There. I meant there. Anyway, so we hope to see you guys soon. Also, the registration for Oasis is in the link below. You can hit the description of this video and there'll be a link there for that conference. It's not too late to sign up. It's a free conference. You can still show up. We'll have a great experience waiting for you. And then the other thing is that we have 2 numbers for you to text if you're a student or if you're a parent. You can go and you can text the numbers in the description below, and we can give you future updates and information and things for these weekly live streams that we do every single week. And that's pretty much it. So we'll see you next week, 7:30. We're signing off. Wave bye. You're not gonna wave bye. You're not gonna tell everybody bye. Like Caesar's over there freaking out in the chat. You're not gonna wave bye. All right. See you guys.